Welcome to Deep Dive. Imagine a place known for its serene coastline, lush landscapes, traditional ways. Now, picture it sitting right next door to some really rapidly developing areas on India's west coast. That's Sindhudurg today. And it's undergoing this, fascinating transformation. We've done a deep dive into a whole stack of sources, focusing particularly on a report called Sindhudurg Real Estate Growth Drivers and Real Estate Dynamics. Our mission. Pretty simple. Cut through the noise, pull out the really important bits, and give you a shortcut to understanding what's driving this change, especially for the real estate market there. So, let's unpack this. What's really happening on the ground in Sindhudurg?
Okay, so what we found in the source material is that Sindhudurg, well, its economy has historically been anchored in agriculture, fishing, mining, traditional stuff. But it's deliberately pivoting away from that base now. It's quite a strategic shift. And what's really fascinating here is the drive for industrial diversification, but importantly, targeting non-polluting sectors. So think like the proposed Adali Pharma Hub.
Huh?
There's also an MSME, that's Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Technology Center planned, that's aimed at supporting engineering, food processing, things like that. They're even leaning into local strengths, with initiatives like One District, One Product for processed cashew, trying to add more value locally.
Right.
The main goal seems clear: create local jobs, try and keep talent from leaving the district.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Shifting the economic base, creating new dynamics. And, you can't really talk about Sindhudurg without talking tourism, right? The report calls it a significant catalyst.
Precisely. Yeah, it was declared a tourism district way back in 1997, so that kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing real investment pouring in, showcasing its beaches, the historical forts, its natural beauty, adventure activities. One specific example the sources highlight is this INS Guldar Artificial Reef project. The aim is actually to make the district India's first major artificial reef site for scuba diving.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, and government policies are pushing this hard, too. You've got the Maharashtra Tourism Policy 2024, the Swadesh Darshan 2.0 master plan. The reported goals are pretty ambitious. Double tourist inflow, attract major investment, and naturally that directly fuels the tourism-related real estate market. Think hotels, resorts,
Right.
homestays, vacation homes, all of it.
So you've got this deliberate economic shift happening, this huge push in tourism, and it sounds like none of that really takes off without, dramatically improving how people actually get in and out. Is infrastructure the absolute core here?
Absolutely. The report really emphasizes infrastructure as maybe the most profoundly impactful catalyst right now.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because while the local Chipi airport that became operational in 2021 gave things a boost, the sources point to the nearby Mopie airport in North Goa, operational since late 2022, as the real game changer.
It is. And the data seems to back that up. Its proximity, especially to the southern Talukas of Sindhudurg, is just key. The report notes a pretty significant impact, a reported 25–40% jump in property prices.
Wow.
Yeah, in areas like Dodamarg and Sawantwadi, shortly after Mopi opened, that kind of jump just catapults a region from a local market into something entirely different. Suddenly, it's this thriving second home market accessible to a much wider pool of buyers.
Right, it puts it on a different map entirely.
Exactly. And development around Mopia isn't stopping either. There are plans for an Arosity, a casino resort, stadium, even a film city. And all this expected to create significant spillover benefits for those adjacent areas in Sindhudurg.
Wow, a 25 to 40% jump just because of an airport nearby. That's really extraordinary. What else is reshaping the transport side of things?
Well, then there's the Konkan Expressway. That's the Mumbai-Goa Coastal Highway, NH66. The sources we looked at indicated it was nearing completion, maybe 95% done, as of early 2025. Full completion anticipated by June 2025.
Okay, so very soon then.
Very soon. And this project, it drastically cuts down travel time to major hubs like Mumbai and Goa. It connects hundreds of villages and towns, places like Kankavli, Kudal, Sawantwadi, much more directly.
So it's more than just a faster road to Goa.
Oh, much more. It really acts as a development corridor. The report expects it to unlock previously less accessible inland areas, especially near the interchanges,
Right.
for real estate development, which could lead to, potentially significant appreciation in land values there.
And it's not just land and air, right? The coast is getting attention too. Port developments, maybe a ferry service.
Correct. Yeah, developments at ports like Reddy and Vijaydurg, plus a planned ro-ro ferry service from Mumbai down to Malvan. These maritime efforts, they signal a strategic plan to use the coastline more effectively for trade and transport.
Which could spark, localized industrial growth. logistics.
Exactly. Think about the demand that creates for associated real estate warehousing, maybe some offices, housing for workers involved. It just adds another layer to the whole picture.
So multimodal connectivity is just exploding. It's fundamentally changing how people and goods move around Sindhudurg. But with all this rapid development, are there equally significant challenges showing up?
That's a really important question, and the report addresses it head on. You see, while the transport infrastructure is improving rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
there's often a lag in developing the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The comprehensive social and civic amenities.
Like schools, hospitals?
Exactly. Quality healthcare, education, reliable utilities, that whole ecosystem. And that lag could potentially limit the region's ability to attract and retain permanent residents long term.
Yeah.
Beyond just second homeowners or temporary
Right.
visitors.
People need more than just a nice house and a good road.
Precisely. The sources also highlight challenges like land acquisition complexities. That can
Huh.
be tricky. And securing environmental clearances for big projects. The environmental regulations like CRZ, Coastal Regulation Zone, and ESA, Eco-Sensitive Area, they're quite strict. There are prohibitions on large-scale projects in ESA zones, and you need these rigorous clearances, environmental impact assessments. Compliance can definitely cause delays, increase costs significantly.
And what about basic utilities? Water, internet?
Yes, also mentioned, despite high rainfall, apparently many villages face water scarcity issues during the non-monsoon months. Plus, consistent, reliable, high-speed internet connectivity. Well, it's still needed across all areas, not just hotspots.
Hmm.
These basic infrastructure pieces are just critical for supporting the kind of growth they're aiming for.
That makes perfect sense. You need the roads, absolutely, but you also need the schools, the hospitals, the reliable internet for people to actually live there comfortably or even work remotely effectively. Okay, so with all this growth, improved connectivity, who is actually buying property in Sindhudurg now, and what are they looking for?
Well, the report paints a picture of a pretty diverse buyer base being drawn in. You've got NRIs, non-resident Indians. They're looking for investment returns, sure, but also maybe stability, potential retirement spots, or just that connection back home.
Okay.
Then you have urban investors, mainly from Mumbai and Pune. For them, Sindhudurg seems to be emerging as this attractive alternative second home destination or a weekend getaway.
Maybe seen as less saturated than Goa, perhaps? Or just a different vibe?
Yeah, possibly both. A different feel, maybe less crowded in certain parts. And there's also a growing segment of retirees, specifically drawn by that promise of a tranquil environment and potentially a lower cost of living compared to the big cities.
Makes sense. And holiday home seekers, looking for rental income.
Definitely. They're interested in the rental income potential, which looks quite attractive,
Yeah.
driven by that tourism push and also the growing workation trend we're seeing everywhere.
Right, people working remotely from scenic locations. And are these buyers looking for, say, just simple plots of land? Or are they demanding specific types of properties and features now?
The current demand, according to the sources, seems to lean quite heavily towards land parcels, actually. Also, low-rise properties, villas, properties that offer space, that connection with nature. It aligns with that second home or getaway vision. Plotted developments within gated communities are also popular. They offer security, plus scope for customization, which people like.
Yeah.
Of course, apartments are being developed too, catering to different budget levels. So yeah, the demand covers second homes, holiday homes, even farmhouses within integrated townships, and service departments are mentioned too.
And is there anything happening for the local population, affordable options?
Yes, that's important. The Konkan Housing and Area Development Board, KHADB, is apparently involved in developing housing schemes, and that potentially includes more affordable options, which is key.
Good. And beyond just the property type, are there specific amenities or locations that buyers are really prioritizing?
Definitely. The sources indicate buyers are increasingly looking for modern amenities. They want this sort of resort-like experience, even in a second home.
Like clubhouses, pools.
Exactly. Clubhouses, swimming pools, gyms, nicely landscaped gardens, robust security systems, that's becoming expected. And location, or proximity, is absolutely key too. Being near the beaches is a huge draw, obviously. Also close to the airports, MOPA or cheapy, or within easy reach of leisure hubs.
Makes sense. Convenience is still king.
Right. And for those niche interests we talked about, like diving near the artificial reef project, well, properties catering specifically to that kind of tourism would see specific demand.
So buyers want the modern comforts, the connectivity, but blended with that natural beauty and tranquility that Sindhudurg offers. It sounds like there's a lot of exciting potential here. But as we've touched on, no market undergoing such rapid change is without its, well, challenges or risks.
Exactly. Let's maybe look at the opportunities the report identifies first. There seems to be a clear potential for early mover advantage, particularly in those emerging hotspots near the new infrastructure.
Like near the expressway interchanges and Mopé.
Precisely. Areas close to the Konkan Expressway interchanges, close to Omiye Airport. The sources specifically mention places like Dodamarg, Sawantwadi, and even specific villages like Sisoli as areas seeing significant impact already.
Okay, those are names to watch.
Yeah. There are also opportunities identified in niche tourism accommodations. The report highlights things like eco-resorts, dive resorts, catering to that reef project, wellness centers, even glamping. Catering to specific tourist segments looking for unique experiences, not just a standard hotel.
Interesting. Diversifying the tourism offering itself.
Right, and for investors, buying a second home, specifically with rental potential, is highlighted as quite attractive. The sources report an appealing average rental yield. Get this, 7.2%.
Wow, 7.2%. That's pretty compelling compared to many other markets.
It is, driven by both that tourism growth and the increasing trend of workations.
Okay, a 7.2% yield certainly gets attention. But let's flip the coin. What about the significant risks? What does an investor or developer really need to be aware of in this specific market?
Right. The report points to several critical risks. One is definitely market volatility and the potential for speculative bubbles. I mean, that rapid 25–40% price jump we discussed near Mopia. While exciting for sellers, it raises questions about sustainability.
Is it real underlying demand or just speculation driving it?
Exactly. Especially if it's driven more by speculation than, say, underlying economic activity keeping pace across the entire district. The sources suggest the market might be somewhat fragmented. High rates might not hold everywhere if the jobs and local economy don't follow suit.
Okay, so risk of a bubble in certain hotspots. What else?
Those environmental regulations we mentioned, CRZ and ESA, they are significant risks if you don't navigate them carefully. These are strict rules. There are outright prohibitions on large-scale projects in some sensitive areas. The clearance processes are complex. They take time. They can lead to major project delays, increase costs dramatically, and even result in legal challenges down the line if not handled properly.
So navigating the green tape is crucial.
Absolutely critical in an ecologically sensitive zone like Sindhudurg. And then there are those infrastructure bottlenecks we discussed earlier. That lag in developing civic amenities, schools, hospitals, reliable water, good internet, proper waste management systems.
Yeah.
Those are real risks. They could impact the livability and the long-term appeal of the region, potentially dampening sustained demand, especially from people looking to live there permanently.
Right, not just visit.
Exactly. Other risks mentioned include execution challenges for some of the large industrial projects like the Pharma Hub, where they actually materialize as planned. There's the potential negative impact of maybe uncontrolled tourism on the fragile marine ecology. That's a big concern. Social acceptance issues sometimes arise from local communities when there's rapid external development.
Understandable.
And just the market's general over-reliance on tourism makes it vulnerable to seasonal downturns or external shocks like, say, another pandemic.
So a market of clear opportunity, definitely, but one where understanding the local nuances, the environmental constraints, the infrastructure realities, it's all absolutely crucial for success.
Indeed. And this is really where government initiatives become key. They are trying to steer this growth while managing these complexities. We've touched on the big state-level policies like the Maharashtra Tourism Policy and Swadesh Darshan 2.0, but there are also district-level plans. Things like specific land use zoning or designating these exclusive tourism zones which have tailored development rules.
Trying to guide development into appropriate areas.
Seems like it. The role of MHADA, the Maharashtra Housing and Area Development Authority, through its local body, KHADB, is also noted, potentially in land acquisition and, importantly, in developing housing schemes, including aiming for affordable options, which, as we said, is important for balanced growth, making sure locals benefit too.
Right.
And remember those economic diversification efforts we started with.
Yeah, the one district, one product for cashews, the MSME support.
Exactly. Those are vital for bolstering the local economy, providing the job creation within the district that's needed to support housing demand from its own residents, not just rely on external buyers. It's about building a more resilient economic foundation.
Okay. So looking back at this deep dive into the sources, we've really seen Sindhudurg on the cusp of potentially massive change, driven by this deliberate economic pivot, a huge push in tourism, and arguably most impactful, this revolution in infrastructure. MOP Airport, the Konkan Expressway,
Yeah.
acting as major catalysts. And this is fundamentally changing who is looking at Sindhudurg, what they want, creating opportunities from, early mover gains to niche tourism ventures.
And yet, the sources also present a very clear picture of a market grappling with significant risks. The potential for speculative bubbles is real. The weight of environmental regulations in such a sensitive region can't be overstated. There's that critical need for supporting social and civic infrastructure to catch up with the transport links. And the overarching challenge of balancing all this external investment and growth with local community needs and ecological preservation.
It's not just a market in motion, is it? It feels like a region navigating a really delicate transition.
Absolutely. A balancing act is a good way to put it. A real balancing act.
So here's a final thought then for you, our listeners, to mull over based on everything we've discussed today. As Sintudurg tries to balance this rapid economic and real estate growth with its core identity as an ecologically sensitive tourism district, what do you think will be the biggest challenge or perhaps the greatest opportunity in making sure this development isn't just fast, but truly sustainable? Sustainable in a way that benefits the local community alongside external investors and preserves the very natural beauty that's drawing everyone there in the first place.